Okay.
Okay. So we'll start with how are you feeling right now?
I'm good. I have weekends on my current rotation, so it's awesome. I get to relax.
Yeah.
I get to recuperate.
Yeah. Okay.
Shall I say?
Good. How do you foster your creative side?
So, two big things. One, one embarrassingly nerdy, one not. So, the first one is online competitive Dungeons and Dragons character building, which. So there's a site where there's a group of people who someone will take a class that's kind of like weird or kind of wonky or doesn't work very well, and they'll like put it out and be like, okay, everybody, what can you do with this? And so we'll like have some time, we'll make builds for it and be like, oh, here's this, we can build on it, we can write like sort of summaries, what a character's like, what the story is. It's an excuse for me to do a little bit of creative writing, which is something that I like, sort of as an initiate, as a sort of free time thing.
Mm-hmm.
The other is competitive ballroom dance. So I did it all in college, creative expressive art, and it's something that I can do and go back, not go back in time, but go back, I think, to a simpler sort of, because in the moment there's nothing else,
Mm-hmm.
there's just you, your partner, the floor, you're going.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to think about what else is happening. It's flight.
So when you tap into that creative side, does it change how you're feeling, your mental state?
Oh,
And
100%. I mean, I think like an important part of this creativity is, your unique thought process or non-structured sort of ideas, thinking, I don't want to say thinking outside of the box, but yeah, it's kind of a tired phrase.
From your experiences in the clinical setting, what is the culture of medicine and how can it improve?
So in the culture of medicine, you can say many things are culture, but I think my first kind of, in the face experience with sort of the culture of medicine is that there's a definite emphasis on not just self-sacrifice, because medicine is obviously a field in which care for others, putting patients before yourself, this sort of thing, sort of self-abnegation is common, but beyond that, I think especially in training for medicine, there's a big emphasis on this almost martyr-like sort of emphasis on you suffering and sacrifice, to the point where there's this small expectation that you should be a little unhappy.
Yeah.
There's a lot of medical training that is talked about as this just sort of period where you have to hunch your shoulders, put your head down,
Mm-hmm.
and muddle through. And I think some of it comes from when you go through negative experiences, there's two sorts of ways to sort of look at it from your perspective, especially when those below you. You can either say, this is something that I went through that I don't want someone to have to go through as well. I want to spare them that.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can say, I took my lumps, they should too. It's only fair that someone else gets this. It makes you tough, it builds character. In terms of how it can be changed or improved, I think a lot of that is more people who have that mindset of, just because I went through this doesn't mean it has to be the way things are. There are other people who I think are more, obviously you're here to help me, but I'm also here to help you learn. It's a mutual relationship instead of a sort of exploitative one.
Yeah, so have you filled that role of the martyr in the first half of your third year?
I mean, definitely. When somebody above you in the sort of hierarchy ever asks you a question that starts with, do you want to? Do you think you could? Would you like to? The answer is always yes, of course, I want to. And enthusiastically, right. You're always wanting to make this good impression, to not be, selfish.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes it could come off as, man, if I'm not doing this, if I don't volunteer first, then it's awkward. Then I'm, somebody who's just trying to take it easy, somebody who's trying to coast.
So as you climb up through the hierarchy, how would you improve the lives of those below you?
I mean, I think part of it starts even with the interactions that we have with the students below us. Sometimes when they come through, rotate for a day or a week or however long. In certain rotations, it falls to you to kind of be their immediate boss.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot I think you can do, at least even in our position, to help them, flourish in whatever it is they're doing. Some of the first times that I was there and some students were coming by, I'm like, oh, they need to do something for their education. And the initial kind of mean thought in your head is, oh man, they're gumming up my procedures or my routines. They're getting in the way.
Yeah.
Which is obviously like, I remember, of course, being that student and being like, oh man, I'm probably in the way. They probably just want me gone. So I think a lot of that is not acting resentful towards them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, remembering, of course, that it's only a year's difference or 2 years difference, however long it is between you and those below you, and that whatever small scrap of power you have is not particularly meaningful. That it's not your job to make. Again, it's not your job. It's not my job to enforce this kind of role of you should be having a bad time. You should be working hard.
Mm-hmm.
On your one day here.
What does burnout mean to you?
So burnout is, I think, what I would call the depletion of a renewable but limited resource. And you can call that resource whatever you'd like. Resilience, reserve, just sort of energy, will, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's something, at least that I think about it, it's something that some days more than others use up more of that reserve, and there are some days that fill it back up.
Mm-hmm.
And especially for me personally, I find a lot of that regenerative time is my personal time. If when I get burned out, when that happens to me and I'm tired and I'm kind of drained, if I'm in that state where I can't really pay attention to myself or my own needs, then trying to connect with somebody else, trying to sort of reflect what they're feeling, becomes increasingly difficult.
Mm-hmm.
When I get a few bad days in a row,
mm-hmm.
that for the next day or two I can be kind of in that sort of bad state. But it also means, I think, that after a couple days, a couple good days, that it comes back, that,
mm-hmm.
that I'm back to where I am.
Mm-hmm. So when you're there, how do you help yourself get out of it?
Just basic needs, I found, is always the big thing that really helps me feel better. Just like making sure that I'm eating right, that I'm not skipping meals, that I'm sleeping,
mm-hmm.
And allowing myself, I think, sometimes to not be so rigorous of, okay, 20 questions every day, gotta get them all, but there's definite times when that hurts more than it helps.
Yeah.
And so just allowing myself, there's this sort of fine line we talk about between self-care and self-indulgence.
Yeah.
And so allowing that line to become fuzzy is helpful for me, because there's things that are, bad for your health but good for your soul. I think a little bit goes a long way
mm-hmm.
in that sort of respect, and allowing myself to not be a perfect person.
So how are you feeling now?
It is nice to be able to reflect like this in a safe space, shall we say, in an environment that's not about achieving goals and checking off numbers.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
You're very well spoken.
Yeah.
Duncan.
And you use words that I don't know the definitions to, but I will look them up.